Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Derrick Sawyer. I'm the Regional Director and I look after RealWear. My job's been kind of made a little bit easier this morning because I'm sitting down there and I'm still going through what am I going to say, what am I going to do, how am I going to do it? And all I've heard all morning is about how people are starting to utilise different technology in different ways. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is just a small introduction to who RealWear are and how we've come about. We'll start to talk about what are those factors that are changing, that are affecting safety and the way that we operate. Probably just to take a step back to confirm what assisted reality is. In comparison to the extended reality spectrum, and we've heard lots of phraseology today about augmented reality, mixed reality, etc. And I'm going to actually try to explain what assisted reality is. Have some open discussions about use cases, and also talk to you about what a demonstration would look like, because we're going to be able to take the hardware outside afterwards and actually put that on your heads and see how that operates and see how you feel about it. But a little bit about RealWear. I'm not sure that we're a startup. We're definitely in hypergrowth. But we were founded back in 2016. And back in 2016, absolutely everybody was talking about smart glasses and the way that smart glasses would change the way that we did work and the way that we approached this. But RealWear had an understanding that smart glasses had some fragility to them. They were fragile, the battery wasn't good enough, actually compromised safety in certain respects. But it was always our view that if we were to try to enable today's first and frontline workers to do their jobs safely, then we had to change the design, we had to change the rhetoric. So we started talking about a knowledge transfer platform. How about a platform where we could absolutely join the first and front line with the collaboration and the innovation that was happening in the rest of the business? But could we do that safely as well? And safety is a big part of what I'm going to be talking about today. And knowing the sector that we're talking about today, it seems a little bit strange to hold this up. But the sector that we're here to focus on today should take learning and should take an understanding of some of the innovation that's gone on elsewhere and take the best learning that we can from those. I'm not saying ignore the rest of it, but take the best learning. If I look at the automotive sector, for instance, one of the challenges that we've got is similar to the automotive sector, and it's the challenge of change. In the automotive sector, they believe that only 6% across Europe of their technicians are trained for electric vehicles, and we heard earlier about the impact that electrification is absolutely going to have on our industry as well. So if we look forward, and looking forward, the scenario is very, very different than what we've experienced when we're looking back, then it is incumbent upon all of us to do something differently and to change. Some of the names that you have seen there, by the way, are names that will exist in this room, and we've also heard from Kotog and others earlier on. But the environment of change, and what change is coming about, and I often talk about the demographic cliff. When we talk to first and frontline workers, we talk to people about, when you ask them what their job is, they're very proud. The experts are really, really proud of what their job is. And so they'll tell you, I've done this job for the last 30 years, and this is the knowledge. And they proudly present themselves as an expert. But we have to understand that our environment is changing, and that the next generation coming along has a perhaps 3 to 5 year understanding of a term of service. So how do we make sure that the inspections, the maintenance, the audits that we all need to do right, how do we have an understanding that they're going to deliver the expertise that previously 30 years don't? So we need to capture the information. We need to capture the information and make sure that inspection is done in a programmatic, auditable way, that the tools used for that are the latest generations of tools that we could use. Maintenance, and we've heard stories about build, maintenance, etc. But maintenance, again, we need to make sure that the maintenance is done in a clear and auditable fashion. And I'll start to talk about that as we start to move into the use cases that I see for assisted reality. And we're starting to see a big uptake in the amount of audits that are done with virtual reality and assisted reality devices, using the innovation and the changes that are available out there. And some scary statements, just to focus our mind on why we need to change. We talk about worker fatalities. We talk about injuries to hand and fingers, and that is related back to the statement that I gave about the demographic cliff that is approaching us. That the experts don't have 30 years learning how to be safe, how to be productive, and how to drive the right behavior. So what we've got to do is use the technology and the knowledge that we have to make sure that we drive the right behavior. But I said, I would take a step back from what you've learned already this morning and what we've spoken to about this morning and talk about assisted reality in the extended reality spectrum. Because we've heard about augmented reality, spoken about mixed reality and virtual reality. So what's this new assisted reality? Assisted reality is a concept of a digital-first, reality-first capability. Imagine you're driving. The reality is the road ahead. Your focus should absolutely be on the reality, which is the road ahead. But the digital information that you need is in a heads-up display or a dashboard, and you simply glance down to see your sat-nav, any warning lights, your fuel, etc., to make sure that your journey is done as safely as it can. And that's the concept of assisted reality. Because that's the concept of assisted reality, it's a lot easier to make a device suitable for the environment that we're talking about. When you've seen the device being used in some of the examples, you've seen it being used in a really demanding environment. And that is because it's a non-immersive experience. And because it's a non-immersive experience, we're able to create a device which is suitable for the environment it goes into. We're able to keep that awareness from a health and safety perspective, and we're able to deliver, rather than taking a device that looks a little bit on the futuristic side and say, look what you could do in 2, 3, 4 years' time. We're able to say, because you have the digital content, we're able to say, let's use that content. Let's make sure that the front and frontline workers are safe and their hands are free to do the task. And you can take the benefits, and you can take the benefits in almost real time. You can take the benefits now. And out of the box, what does it do? Well, we heard from Kotak earlier about how they're using that with Flow Insight, one of RealWear's partners. But out of the box, Document Navigator is really easy. Do I have the right information in front of me to do the job that I need to do safely? Do I have the most relevant and recent plans? And if I need assistance, can I get assistance without trying to do the job and hold my phone up so that they can see what I'm doing at the same time? And we've all seen those. I've seen worse than that, by the way. I've seen one solution as I came into it, which actually involved a Velcro strip on the jacket so that they could attach their phone to their chest and walk around and somebody could still see what they were doing. But visual assistance, obviously in the last couple of years of COVID, has been critical. You see what I see. Without those travel requirements. Where we talk about remote expert guidance, that adds a capability. It adds a capability of imagining that I can arrive into somewhere without traveling. I can see what they can see, and I can push plans, diagrams, maintenance instructions, or knowledge down to them. And then digital workflow. And I think digital workflow is an underutilized area where we can start to take the knowledge from the last 30 years and we can put that into a digital workflow, a process that can mean that even if I'm 6 months into the job, I can follow a full auditable process. I know how to do that, and in the same area, I can ask for assistance to come in. And we all know, and we've spoken about, and we've seen what the future is from electrification. We all know that this is partly a journey. And the journey is to actually get the data and information back from the machines that we're manufacturing and the machines that we are maintaining. So it is making that data available from an IoT and data visualization perspective. It's making that data available to make sure that the maintenance tasks are done right first time, in real time, with your hands free. So the device that you've seen and the device that you've seen on the videos earlier and you've seen from some of the perspective, it's what it is, a HMT. Somebody interestingly decided that HMT was going to be what we called it because it was a head-mounted tablet. That's what this is. It's just an Android tablet that is 100% hands-free. What we're talking about is a fully ruggedized, drop-proof, dust-proof tablet that you can use to deliver those workflows. And it's done, by the way, by having a small boom arm and a screen at the end of it. And we use magnification and mirrors to mean that you can see what you're looking at as if it was a 7-inch tablet. It's designed to work in the demanding locations, up to 105 decibels of industrial noise, and in different variants into different areas of protectivity. This one here is a 16 megapixel camera and is compatible with various different PPE. So again, safety is not compromised. So then we moved into, and the reasons that you can see in the oil, gas and petrochemical and some of the industries that operate in and around the port here, you can see the importance of this version. This is a Class 1, Div 1, Zone 1, ATEX approved. So irrespective of the zone that we're going into and the job that we need to do, we make sure that there is a suitable piece of equipment for some of the most hazardous and frigid areas of the world. And then we introduced a device that we will have sitting on a table outside there, the next generation, low light capable. We're actually bringing out from a modular perspective, and we've been requested from the port maintenance perspective to bring in infrared modules, thermal modules, etc. So from a preventative maintenance, you can imagine the heat generation on doing a maintenance program that an electric vehicle or an electric vessel starts to create, and starting to be able to observe that in real time is critical to part of the maintenance process. So what we've delivered is a modular where you can take that in. Sorry. Okay. So I'll click back on that and try to quickly move on and off that. There is obviously some audio on the bottom of that slide. So the audio on the bottom of that slide is going to be talking to us about the dangerous lure of consumer devices. What RealWear's not trying to do, it is not trying to say that the phone is not a fantastic device. What we're trying to say is, imagine yourself in an environment where your hands need to be free to complete the job safely. Imagine that therefore you need remote assistance to come in, or you need to see a diagrammatic approach to what you're doing. There isn't a one-size-fits-all to this. There isn't a bring your own device to safety around the port. That would be an incredibly dangerous approach to, number one, those tasks that are critical and to safety. So please don't believe that there is a simple approach to this and that we can take the consumer devices and move them into the enterprise, okay, and move them into the enterprise at scale. This is about identifying the right task, the right device, the right software, meaning that we can do everything that we can do to make sure it's done right first time and safely as well. So I'll open up if there is any questions or statements. I'm sure that there's some observations there as well.
Please. Yeah, thank you. Any questions from the crew?
There's one over here.
Yes, the mic will be coming to you, and then the question will be recorded as well.
And I'm going to step just this side so that I can see you as well.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Hello to everybody. My name is Madli Kopti from Tallinn University of Technology, Estonian Maritime Academy. As I'm the representative of education and training, and as I understood, this product and all these services are developed for the commercial sector. But what about education? How these can be used in education and training?
So that's a great question, and something that perhaps only started to get some traction into last year. What we started to find is that if my directions are right, by the way, I'm going to point over there, and I have no idea if I'm pointing in the right direction, but I'm hoping you guys don't either. So in the port of Rotterdam, it's being used from an educational perspective already. They're using the device for technicians to start looking at a biofuel maintenance program over there and doing that via a digital workflow. So they are taking a workflow of a maintenance program and they are using gamification to put two students alongside each other and say, how can you maintain that? And at what speed and accuracy can you maintain that? So they are using that already from an education background. But I think we've got a lot more to do, by the way, because I think that education is lagging quite far behind the implementations in large corporates. So that's something that I need to be working on, and it was a conversation that I was having over breakfast today about how it can be used in further education. So there was a second part to that question, I think. Yes, okay.
Yes, I have the second part as well. I think that actually one very good idea would be to have this kind of automatic feedback and evaluation. I mean that if you train and learn the new skills, if you start to do something wrong, then automatically it gives you the feedback that no, you are on the wrong way.
Yes.
So this is maybe one idea for you.
Yes, and there is one of our partners in the room today who has written a phenomenal bit of software, is starting to use that element of machine learning and artificial intelligence to say, if we're starting to spot this, and we've seen it before, we can actually correct the workflow and we can correct that. The other part to that, by the way, is learning shouldn't stop in an education environment. So we talk about forever learning environments now, and the ECITB, the government board over in the UK, have actually run a pilot program what's that saying onshore, offshore, nearshore. Why do we keep taking people away from the environment they're working in to assess their capabilities? And so what they've started is a connected learning environment where actually the trainers can just dial in and watch the job being done in real time. So you've got real-time accreditation at quite often a fraction of the cost that it takes you to take somebody away and move them into a separate training environment. So that's one of the forever learning or continual learning environments.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Great question. I must say, I hear a lot of the questions also going about ensuring safety and correcting when it's done wrong. And I always like to talk about the potential of the students also. And I think this is an amazing tool also if we change the mindset of actually triggering students or triggering frontman worker to actually become more sustainable and asking him questions to maybe do his work in a different way and actually generating ideas to be able to actually move faster towards the future. Because we're actually also limiting sometimes our human capital to functionalities instead of actually being explorers. So I think this whole concept will be very much engaging that too. Just to come back into the question of how you're feeling, I could imagine that the limiting factor of RealWear is actually the data which is behind it, and the openness and the connectivity of all the apps and service contracts and How could you say something about how you've been experiencing that? I see a big trend in data infrastructures and people who are willing more to share more data, etc., and moving away from a commercial perspective to much more socially integrated perspective. But trust and mindset and collaboration is key there. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is making sure that effectively there's a lot of organisations referring to this as a new edge. Okay, so we've got to make sure that the data is out to the worker to make this efficient. Otherwise, it's a one-way tool. Okay, this is not supposed to be a head-mounted camera. Okay, without the right data and information, it's got that. To an extent, RealWear take a step back in that area, and we say we've made a tool that is capable of the right applications. So whether you've got your data in SAP or IBM or where you've got your data processed, okay, it's accessible for an application that means that that data is presented to the first or frontline worker in real time. Mm-hmm. It is also capable of returning that data back in, because as I said, from an IoT perspective, we've got to then use that data and return that back in. So that's where input comes from a human perspective. Input comes in and saying, we're going to learn how to optimize this job at the same time. It is not all about prescriptive, do this, do this, do this, and never innovate. So that's why we need that to be a connected device. This is a connected device. Okay, it is supposed to be a connected device, not just a standalone tool in that way. The other bit that almost to bolt onto that says about how do you feel. The danger on this is the human side of it, is the human adoption. Because when you put this on somebody's head, quite often their first response is, I am not talking to a device while my colleagues are watching me. Okay, there is one of almost, I am not the person at home that talks to my watch or talks to my speakers and whatever else. So I am not walking around a port doing a job talking to it while my colleagues are looking at me. Okay, and we have had that time and time again. We've actually had one of them that insisted that they moved from a paper process to a smart tablet process. And actually they didn't want to, because the smart tablet couldn't be used with gloves, couldn't be used in the rain. And it occasionally rains over here. It couldn't be. So they wouldn't do it. So they mandated that they had to. As somebody in the innovation program said, no, you have to do that. So what did they do? They took the tablet out and put the paper on top of it and used it as a clipboard to lean on. Okay, that's the human side of adoption. How do you get a tablet to be used? You pick a champion. You put it on their head. The champion did the inspections. Day of the inspections come to an end. They walk back in. Yes, they're drop proof, and they need to be because they'll just throw it on the floor afterwards. Threw it back in, and when the question came, when are you going to type up your reports? When are you going to type up the inspections? And by the way, I think most of us know in the room that when we're talking about typing up reports and inspections, it isn't this. It's this. Okay? It's the annoying part of the day from that perspective. And they said, no, we don't need to. As we did the inspection, the data was pushed straight into the back-end system. It was starting to be acted upon in real time. So that bit at the end of the day, when you have that catch-up, is done in real time. That's the human perspective to it, but it's also the improvement on data.
Yep. Thank you very much. And I think you addressed all the things. Everyone is an explorer. Saying that the frontman line is very proud of his job. And if you take him in his journey, he can be supported by a great tool. You almost got me fooled there by this great presentation about tech and saying, hey, is this tech going to take away all the potential of the crew? No, it's actually still, like you said, it is the combination of the human engagement and the technology. Great, thank you very much, and
thank you.
We'll be happy talking to you.